Let's say if you're listening to this and you're interested in selling on Amazon, but maybe you don't want to go all in with your capital, or you want to get acquainted with the Amazon platform. KDP is a great place to start. So for any of you that are listening in and you're considering a product idea, I recommend asking yourself, not so much which product am I selling, but what is the experience that you are going to be giving to your customers. So I took a leap of faith. I took all my savings, which at the time I believe was somewhere between $12,000, $15,000. And I went all in on my business.
Can you give us a little bit about your background? Where were you before this e-commerce space, and how did you begin this journey, or what made you, change and start this journey?
Sure. I did not start in business whatsoever. I very much was the average Indian child who thought she was going to go into medicine. And so from the age of 5 all the way until I believe it was 18, I was very one-track mindset. I did all my medical prerequisites when I was in college. And when I was in college, when I was about 17, I was introduced to network marketing. Now, network marketing is a very different lifestyle from anything that involves selling online or selling on Amazon. I guess there's some incorporation or integrations there because you can sell via a storefront, even if you are in network marketing. But I got some experience selling online through that, as well as building a team, doing some cold contacting, some sales skill sets. And that's where I really started to think to myself, okay, I think this might be a pretty good fit for my skill set, or I at least enjoy doing this. And so I went to my dad and I pitched it. I said, I think I want to do business. And he's like, you don't need a degree to do business. You can continue, get your degrees. And then if you still want it, later on, that'll be an option for you. And so I continued. I went through, like I said, all my medical school prerequisites, was preparing to take the MCAT and everything. And then I thought to myself, no, I still want to do business. I think even if I became a doctor, I would have wanted to hire have my own practice and hire out. And it didn't make sense to go that much in debt to start a business. And so I took a leap of faith. I took all my savings, which at the time I believe was somewhere between $12,000, $15,000. And I went all in on my business. And at the time, it was not Amazon. It was first drop shipping, then it was KDP, and then it was Amazon. So there was some versatility in there. I do have experience with other business models, not to say that there's one that doesn't work. I think every single one of them is great. I was able to build a team of about 40 people in network marketing. Even with not continuously building, I was still making a paycheck from it after some time, even after I stopped actively building for drop shipping. I got samples. I set up my web shop. I set up 2 or 3 web shops, if I remember correctly. Never ran the ads. Didn't feel like it was my product enough to run the ads. Then there was KDP, which I wrote and published books, and it got me acquainted with the Amazon platform. So let's say if you're listening to this and you're interested in selling on Amazon, but maybe you don't want to go all in with your capital, or you want to get acquainted with the Amazon platform. KDP is a great place to start because it's free. You don't need to actually spend money to set up the account. You can build it basically in 5 minutes. And then as long as you can write up something or write a manuscript or maybe take advantage of ChatGPT, then you can write a book, publish it for little to no money. Maybe you want to outsource your graphics and then publish. You can absolutely do that. Use that as a gateway to build up some money to reinvest into something like private label on Amazon. So then finally, come 2020 is when I launched my first private label brand, and it failed. I think and this is a story I've heard time and time again from entrepreneurs. Sometimes it's not that first product. You really want to make all the calculated choices to make it work the first time. And you can be so careful, but the nature of the game of entrepreneurship is you will make mistakes. Things like that will happen. There will be setbacks, and how you overcome them is really the thing that will keep you pushing forward and actually get you to that success. And so with that being said, I continued to publish books. I continued to launch product. And finally, I did have, my winner. And it really came down to differentiating that product and how much value you can add. I think the more work you put in upfront into that product, the easier it will be long-term to market that product.
And I would love to get into that. And I can relate to it because my first product failed tremendously as well. It was a huge learning curve. I mean, like Amazon can be, a headache sometimes.
of
to get
these.
familiar with. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it was actually utility bills. My issue was my inventory came into the warehouses before I was able to get approved to sell on Amazon. And so every time I would submit a bill, they would say, no, we're not approving this because at the time I also didn't have anything in my name, no bills in my name because I was living with my family. And that makes it much more difficult. So 9 months later is when I finally got approved. And 9 months later is a lot of storage fees, a lot of website fees. And by then the market had also drastically changed. So it wasn't enough. And yeah, if I could tell you anything, it's make sure you're approved before you get all your inventory from that experience.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a similar experience, but what one of my issues was my listing wasn't allowed or eligible for marketing. So I couldn't do any PPC or ad campaigns or nothing. And it took me 8 to 9 months to figure out like what's the reason behind it. I wasn't aware that a keyword or an image could trigger something in the Amazon algorithm. So it would prevent you from doing PPC marketing, and it was impossible to push the product to sell without any like advertising or marketing. It was selling, but it wasn't selling that much. So 9 months in, I started getting charged for stocking fees
Oh
and
no.
storage fees. Yeah, so it's like it was costing me money that I have it in there. But that's funny that you had a similar experience. But what made you want to do e-commerce, or what made you want to get into the e-commerce world in the first place, from
I
medical to e-commerce?
I love being free. I like being able to do whatever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want. And I think that's a little bit of a paradox as well, because when you are in entrepreneurship, it is a full time thing. You'll be working all the time. I feel like I perpetually have more things to do, but it can be so exciting when it's truly your own thing. You have the choice of wearing whatever hat you want to wear. And it challenged me as well. So I went and did everything I've always done everything in my business and this doesn't mean you shouldn't outsource. You absolutely should. I do outsource some things, but I've at least had experience doing everything. So I've made my own images. I've made my own video content. I've written my own captions. I've done the social media. I've talked to the influencers. I've sampled, you can do everything. And the diversity that lifestyle offers, as well as the ability for the uncapped income, as well as being able to travel and be with your family. If my parents need something, my sister needs something, I can be there right away for them. And that is very hard to find, all those
Yeah.
things in conjunction.
Yeah, and I would like to dive into one of the products that you launched and like
Yeah.
kind of go through that whole story of how it started and how you went through it. But first, I wanted to ask you, so what kind of books did you write and publish on Amazon? Was it medical related or was it something else?
No, they were mindset based. I have actually done fictional and non-fictional books, but I've only published two under my name. So if you were to look up my name, you'd only find two. I wrote them when I was, I believe, 22 years old. I'm now 27. And I'm actually in the process this week of redoing that book. And so it's going to go from a medium sized book, which is 40 pages, to over 270 pages. And so it'll just be a revamp because I think a lot's changed in 5 years. When I wrote that book, it was pretty much simple. It was just, I had a lot of people talking to me about mindset and I loved it. I'm just a very overall optimistic person, and being able to write things down and just share it with them was so much easier than individually having the conversations. I still have those convos, but it was so much more exciting to be able to make something, package it once, and then be able to resell it. I actually still sell those books even now, and I don't do any marketing for them. I should do marketing for them. I now know how to run ads. I know how to do all these things. So, but it requires time. And so I do plan to go back, especially after I reformat the books, to do that. But outside of those two mindset books, I have plenty more that I sell, and they're just under ghostwritten names.
Oh, cool. Do you want to mention the books under your name? Can you share what they are or?
Yeah, one is Positive Self-Talk, How to Unlock Your Best Self in 30 Days. And then the other one is Engineering Powerful Habits Successfully. So both
Mm.
of those, like I said, I wrote when I was 22. So be nice if you go and read them. But I'll be revamping those, and I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. That's exciting. I love that spirit of, always wanting to improve and grow. So let's dive into one of your products, and I'm open to talking about either one. We can talk about your first product and how miserably it didn't work out for you, or we can talk about the one that made it for you and kind of like, blew it out of the water.
I'll actually talk about the one I shared at Prosper, just because That one's already quite public. And I think there's a lot of things that somebody who's just getting into the field can learn from that and hopefully use to successfully launch their own product.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's dive into it. So, what is the product? How did you come up with the idea? What inspired you to do it?
So it's a makeup bag with an LED mirror, and it's travel functional, it's portable. I feel like it solves a real problem. And I think that's really important in the space, especially when you want to push a lot of product. If you have a problem that that product solves, it's so much easier to market. And I wasn't really set on it, honestly. I know I work for Helium 10, but I do use their software, of course. And that is how I found that product idea. When I first got started, the first product that I ever did, I did manually. So I went in, I actually did categories, subcategories. At the time, I employed several different softwares. I've used Jungle Scout, I've used Managed by Stats, and I used Helium 10 for my winning product. So when I went into Black Box, found 10 to 15 product ideas using the different filters. I mean, I would sit there and do multiple searches different ways, as well as using some of the other things as well, like Cerebro, which is a keyword research tool. I use Market Tracker, which is just for monitoring markets. And sometimes you'll find different product ideas in there. But I believe the winning idea really came from Black Box. So I went in there, eventually validated the product idea, whether it was profitable, if the competition was low enough, is there some value add I could add? And at the time, interestingly enough, the product was only selling for $30 and I wanted to sell for $120. And so it was a little bit of a, how can I sell this for 120 bucks if everybody's selling for 30 bucks? But I went with it. I wrote out some ideas, and eventually the idea I had was package it with a digital course and live coaching elements. And nobody, not from that I've seen, has ever done something like that before. Now I'm starting to see some things since I've had some conversations with people. They're like, now I'm adding the masterclass, or now I'm doing this. And it's really cool because these people who have established SKUs, who aren't new to selling, they're still taking products that they own and they're now widening their profit margins because there's so many more touch points you can offer. You can offer a better experience to your customers, as well as just going back and retargeting them with affiliate links or, email campaigns, whatever the case may be. So I went in, found the product idea, did the validation, decided I was going to package it with this digital course and live coaching element. And then I got to work. I ordered the samples, I waited, I got the product in, and then I launched, and crickets initially, because I didn't know, exactly like what I wanted to do in terms of marketing. There was a holdback as well because it was a regulated product, because it's an electronics item. And so they required some documentation. I didn't know when it went live. There was a whole thing.
Okay.
But eventually, this was, I believe, the first week that I think there was a week of wait time where it went live and I didn't realize it went live. So I'm already eating into my honeymoon period that everybody talks about. And it was set for 120 as opposed to 30 bucks or 40 bucks.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, there's like some hoops here.
So I want to get to that, but first I want to start with from the beginning. Where'd you shop for manufacturers or suppliers?
Oh yeah, China, Alibaba.
Alibaba.
Yeah,
And
it wasn't limited to Alibaba. I actually did do a trade show here in the United States, and I went in, I met suppliers. And this was at a time when I wasn't set on the makeup bag. I was actually looking at cocktail smoker kits at the time, but I was open to other ideas. So I went and I talked to different suppliers. I was able to feel a lot of products, talk to them. There was a really cool one I found that was sourced in Indonesia. It was a lamp which had a fishbowl in the middle and it would rotate. It was beautiful, very unique, does not exist on Amazon. However, I just wasn't able to get past this communication hurdle, and I wasn't able to really validate it in terms of demand, whether or not it exists. Of course, you can go to Kickstarter or figure it out if you want to, but I wanted something that had some demand at least available.
Yeah.
And so I ended up checking on Alibaba. I talked to many, many suppliers. I think I might have messaged maybe upwards of 50.
Oh, wow.
And by then I narrowed it down to 2 to 4. I also was in touch with a couple of sourcing agents, but they were not able to get a cheaper price for me. I was able to get a cheaper price on my own. And that doesn't always happen, but if you don't try, you never know. So I
Yeah. So
recommend
why
trying.
did you go to, like, why did you talk to 50 suppliers? What was it that you were looking for that wasn't meeting your needs?
Best quality, best price.
So you
And
were you ordering samples from a lot of
not
them?
no, it was communication. I was
Okay.
trying to get a feel for their pricing. So I would even order breakdowns when you have something like a bag as complex as a bag, you have a lot of moving pieces. You have your zipper, you have your material, you have the adjustable compartments. What are the compartments made out of? What is the light made out of? The mirror, what sort of functionality are the buckles? You have so many different things. And so I was going in and even ordering spreadsheets of the breakdown. So I would ask people, okay, what is each individual pricing? If I change out this one thing, is it going to change my
Mm,
pricing? I had my spreadsheets pulled up on one of my 3 monitors and trying to sort all of this stuff out. But it was fun. It's not
yeah,
just, oh my gosh, I'm doing all this work. It was like, oh my gosh, how do I create the best product for the best price point, especially because it is a harder to source product in terms of
definitely. No,
price,
and
in terms of price.
right, price and quality
Yeah.
and communication. I mean, this is good information because a lot of our students and audience are, to them this is new stuff. So talking to manufacturers sometimes can be a bit difficult, and they don't know how to navigate it and what exactly to look for. So sharing that is really important. And somebody just asked me recently about like manufacturing questions. They're like, oh, they're not agreeing for a minimum order quantity. They want me to order this much to customize. I'm like, how many manufacturers did you talk to, and how big is the manufacturer or the supplier? Is it a big company, a small company? Because on Alibaba you can see how big of a company it is by the revenue they're producing.
Mhm.
And sometimes if you're, especially if you're beginning, you can look at a supplier that has a low revenue of like less than $1 million a year, and maybe they're more willing to work with you
Definitely.
because they're upcoming, rather than the big suppliers that make $2-3 million a year and they're working with big sellers. They don't have to accommodate your MOQ. So
Right.
I just wanted to take your your experience with that. And so let me ask you, so you went through 50 suppliers, uh, dialed it down to 4 suppliers who are like willing to give you all the information and communicate effectively with you. Now you're like, okay, let me get some samples, right?
Mhm.
um, so how many samples did you order? How much did it cost you? Did you customize it before you get your samples, or did you get samples and then you're like, no, I want to customize this. Can I get another sample? What was your process like?
I honestly can't entirely remember because I've sourced other items since, but I believe I only ordered 2 or 3 samples, and it was really based off communication and price point. I narrowed it down simply based on those things, as well as the certification. So when you're on Alibaba, you can check out the certifications, you can talk to them. Sorry. You can talk to them and see exactly, what their factory already has. So that way you're not asked for it later and then they don't have it, right?
Mm,
Uh, so I did pay attention to those things, narrowed it down to 2 or 3, ordered samples, and then from there, based off of the quality that I received, I did some negotiations. So I would say, hey, like, this supplier gave me this price point for this item, or, I like this more about this other sample I received. Is this something you can work with? And you can actually enhance the quality of that based on those conversations. I did order samples even after the customization. So I ordered a more generic sample, and then I ordered a customized sample once I had made my decision of exactly what I wanted, just so I knew exactly what the product looks like.
yeah. And now you placed your first order of inventory once you've approved the sample. So when you do that, so what was your next step now? Did you get into marketing early, or did you wait till later?
I created a landing page, which was really, really simple, but that advocated for the makeup course. So, how exactly to use the course? I used myself as the brand ambassador for it. I have quite extensive history in fashion and beauty. And everybody I asked, I wasn't planning to tie my own face to it. I prefer not to, but they said it was likely a good idea. And so I did. And I got some names through that, like some people that were interested in ordering it, which I then marketed to later on and was able to get sales from. But at the same time, outside of that, I really think a bulk of that like launch period for me ended up happening when I actually launched.
Okay, so did you use Instagram and social media for the landing page to get?
I
to
I
add to.
essentially, yeah, just put it into my bio and then I would post about it to my following.
Okay. Um, okay, cool. So basically, and we do teach that, by the way. We do teach like people to work on creating a crowd around your product before you launch, because like it helped you with initial sales. It really helps. So I'm just want to break it down. So you got your sample, you did a leading page. I'm guessing you had a trademark. You already know how to do
Nope.
that. Oh
Nope.
no.
I didn't. I felt it was better to wait for the trademark until I saw the product because I just wasn't sure if this was going to be, a hit or a miss. And so I waited a little bit of time before I did do the full blown trademark, which I do believe you can just go ahead and do, and you can always just change the name. Not change the name, but change the product and keep the same brand if you decide to launch something else. But I didn't. And I
Okay.
waited, and once my launch period happened, the product was just flying off of the shelves. And so at that point, I said, okay, I need to reorder inventory really fast and I need to get it trademarked really fast.
And did you have an LLC at all,
I
or
did. Yeah.
okay, so you had an
I've
LLC.
had the same LLC for 3 years. I mean, when I first got started with that first product it's been 4 years now, but I launched my LLC at that time, and then I've had several brands attached to it. So it's sort of a parent company that it runs through.
Cool, yeah, and it's a good idea to do that. I recommend having one LLC than
Mhm.
multiple. So how many variations did you have of your product?
Just one. I
Just
launched with
one?
one. Yeah, I felt it was better to launch with one because based off of what I was seeing, I used review insights from Helium 10 to get a feel for the review distribution. And of course, if you want to go really hefty, really fast, you absolutely can launch multiple variations at once. It might even be recommended depending on the niche, just because then you're not placing all your eggs in one basket. However, for me, I saw that there was one shade that was predominantly chosen, and I would rather have more quantity than, you have like a little bit of here and there. So I just launched with the one, and it was, like I said, pretty hefty in price upfront. Each bag cost me $25 even just to source.
Wow, that was your startup price.
Yeah, $25 per bag.
And how much were you selling it for in the beginning?
120. I started,
120.
but I couponed it down the first week to $90. And that was good because so I had an initial sale that I did at 120, and I got a review, and then I marked it down to $90, and then the speed really picked up. So at $90 people started buying, but it was flying off so fast, and I knew I didn't have the inventory, so I upped it back to 120 pretty fast, and it was still selling like hotcakes at 120. So
That's awesome. When it's
no
a hot
problem.
product, it's a hot product.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
gonna sell. I hear that a lot from people who like they have a good product that's flying out and they're like, "Oh, I raised the price to slow it down," and it doesn't slow down. They're like, it keeps selling, and that's when
Yeah.
they realize, like, "Oh, I could be selling this at a higher price." How much are you selling it now?
So right now it's still at 120, but the thing is when that product ran out, it ran out. So I was completely out of stock for quite some time, and the inventory actually just came back in stock for this product. So now it's all about re-ranking, re-indexing for the keywords. I mean, I have my sponsored up, and I just had some people message me saying they just purchased it, but it was on the second page. So kind of just getting it back up in the rankings now.
What was your first inventory order? How much quantity did you order?
It was 500 and it sold out in pretty much 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's the greatest scenario that you want to
Yeah,
get
it is.
from selling on Amazon.
Exactly. And this is why I say if you do all the legwork up front, then it really sets you up much better. And some people might say, oh, it might be luck. I genuinely don't believe it's just luck. I think there are so many moving pieces, and you might mess up on some of them, but if you do the rest right, you'll still place yourself in a pretty good position.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. And I would like to dive into that a little bit since we have you here and you're, an expert in using Helium 10. So let's dive into that a little bit and get your advice on like doing the research and what are some things that can stand you out from, finding a good niche or a good product that's really gonna, be less competitive and more in demand.
Uh, to find specifically like a product that's low competition, good in demand. I mean, I would say you can do that a number of different ways. Black box for sure, but going in and taking a look at historical data for all this information, I've even heard stories of people going to trade shows, and if you see a lot of people congregated around one specific tent, then you know that that's something that could do really, really well as well. It just there's opportunity everywhere for you to find a really good product. And
What
at
is
the
it
end of
that
the
you look for?
for me specifically, I mean, it was all over the map. Like I said, search volume was a part of it, differentiation was a part of it, looking at low competition was a part of it, what sort of value add is a part of it, price
What's a good
point.
what's a good search volume?
Search volume. So for me, I at least like to look for a minimum of 3,000. And that's across the board. I usually look at keywords. So you don't want just one specific keyword or key phrase, you want multiple. And going in and ensuring there's at least 15 to 20 different key phrases that have substantial search volume that is sustained is really, really important. Not going into markets that maybe go up and go down in roller coaster format that are perhaps capitalizing only on trends as opposed to something that works all year long. What else? I would say images are an important part of it. Some people don't look at that, but I do. And going in and ensuring that there's a way that you'll be able to catch your consumer's attention when you are scrolling through the page. Even as far as your A plus content, going into other people's A plus content, checking out what sort of story they're telling. Is there a story that you could share that will actually be more evoking of emotion? Because then you can leverage that in the marketing side of things. You can go into TikTok, you can go into press releases and say, hey, this is my story, or create a whole avatar for your brand. Like, for example, think of Duolingo. Duolingo is not a real person, but they have a mascot, and the mascot has a story, and they have this whole unhinged marketing tactic. If you go to their Instagram, you'll find that they're just roasting people or doing whatever, same as Ryanair. And so you want to choose maybe a persona or a story that you can share based off of what you're seeing, based off the themes that you're seeing. Earlier today, I was looking at spice jars for affiliate of Helium 10s. And when I was going through the actual spice jars section, you see that all the images, if you're looking at it in media comparison inside of listing analyzer for Helium 10, you'll notice that every single image or video is quite similar. Like there's not a lot going on. And if you launched into that, you're going to really need something to stand out. But that could be as simple as inserting some bright blue in, because there is not a single media file on there that's of that color. So maybe if you're scrolling through all of a sudden and you know your brand's marketing color is blue, you can put a lot of blue in and it'll just automatically catch the consumer's attention. So small things like that you think, oh, I mean, it's just colors. No, it's not just colors. Those things are the things that will have conversions. It's the same as psychologically speaking. If you go in, I mean, I've talked to UX designers about this, and the font changes will evoke different emotions. You'll have, if something is on the left or the right, this is why you have things like Helium 10 Audience or PickFu. You can go in and test if the image is on the left side versus the right side, does it have a better conversion? And those things you don't think about them, but you can split test them while you're doing product research beforehand, before you even launch, or you could do them afterwards as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Doing the research pays off in a big way. And I think a lot of people don't realize that images and the description and the bullet points, the title, really play a big role, because like you said, telling a story is the biggest advantage that you can have to your marketing strategy. Because if you can touch on the pain points or solve someone's problem, or if you can just get someone attached to an idea, because most people buy based on emotions. So emotions sell, they say in sales. So if you can evoke emotions in your images or in your writing, that definitely helps a lot. What is your take on PPC marketing? Did you utilize PPC at all in the beginning, or did
Yeah,
you wait?
I did utilize PPC. I am not super confident about PPC, but I took PPC Academy inside of Helium 10. It's in the Learning Hub, and it's included if you have a subscription. And so I went in, I watched that, I set up my campaigns accordingly. Obviously, it helps that I'm in this space, so I can also bother my friends who are in PPC. But I essentially set up different, I think I had close to like 25 different campaigns running. And maybe you're thinking, oh, like budget wise, yes, except I kept my bids really, really low. So I would put in maybe $100 budget for a campaign. And then my actual bids were 50 cents or like 40 cents or something like that. And so I could cap it out. I could also go in and pause them, but it was better for Amazon to feel like I had some money to spend. And then I would also tweak it based off of how many sales I was getting. So it's really important that if you are doing your own PPC, you watch it like a hawk, because there were some that I was overspending. And at some point I sat down with my dad, because my dad's a numbers guy, and he looked at them and he's like, what is this? Like, this is, you're spending $16 for like a sale. And I'm like, no, 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 like we got to pause this out. It's just that we had to let it run for a little bit of time to accrue the data. And then I paused out those campaigns. But I did run PPC. I had maybe 5 of those 25 or 30 were just exact match. So just you go in, you input the one keyword or phrase that you're interested in targeting, and that's it. That's the whole campaign. But then I also had my product targeting campaigns. I had broad match campaigns. I split up my closely related and loosely related ones. So I think I never inputted more than 10 or 15 into a given, usually ideally capping out at 5. But sometimes if it was, you have something for example, broad match, you can go in with maybe 8 to 10 and it's fine because they'll be all loosely related. But yeah, I did spreadsheets on spreadsheets before I chose which keywords and phrases to go after.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And PPC is a whole thing
Ball
on its
game. Yeah.
own. Yeah, it's a whole ball game on its own. And learn. I think a lot of people ask me like, "Oh, what should I do in the 6 months before I get my product?" Because it takes them time to between the order and between the
Right.
sample. I'm like, go in and start learning
Yeah.
all these tools. Start
Good
learning how
advice.
to find. Yeah, learn how to use PPC. Learn how to find the right keywords. How to do campaigns. If you don't mind me asking, how much did you spend on PPC campaigns, like in the first, because you only went for 3 weeks, right?
I think
So,
about $3,500 to $4,000, somewhere between there.
okay. And do you know approximately how much was that percentage wise from your total revenue?
I know that my tacos were about 9%. And then my ACOS, I can't remember now because I was focusing on the tacos. I that's like really what I was paying attention to, is what my overall ratio was. But some days were as low as 2 or 3% on tacos. So I would say
Mm,
really, really good.
yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. I think my overall profit margins, just like if we're only focusing on those first 3 weeks, obviously things have changed since, but they were like, my profit margins, I believe, were 45%. So
45%.
yeah,
Okay, that's pretty good.
yeah.
That's amazing. Um, how much have you been selling for? Or I mean, how long have you been selling for?
I've been selling, so there's been some off periods, I guess, but total 4 years of experience selling on Amazon.
No, I mean this product
This
in
product,
particular. Yes.
I mean, does
Did you
I
launch
don't
it
think
this year?
I don't know, last year. I launched November, but yeah, I guess it doesn't count when it's been out of stock. So really a
What do
total
you
of 3 months for it, because it hasn't been in stock for a
you
while.
were
Chinese
out
New
for?
Year's, yeah, for a long time. So the issue that happened is, and this is prime example, which hopefully you guys can take a lesson from, is make sure you have multiple suppliers. Because for me, I went back to the same supplier. It was supposed to come in. I pretty much placed the order as soon as I knew I was going to sell out, which was in December. And I placed the order. I said I need this before Chinese New Year's. They said okay. And it was supposed to ship out before Chinese New Year's. It did not ship out before Chinese New Year's. They had an issue with the glue, whatever the case may happen. Came back from Chinese New Year's, did an inspection, failed the inspection, had to redo it. They finally succeeded, but it was sort of right on the cusp of whether or not the inspection company wanted it to go through. And I had a conversation, a few more conversations with my supplier. They're like, no, 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 it's good. Like, we made sure. And I'm like, okay, all right. And so we finally got it shipped out, and literally I think it's only been a week since they received it at the Amazon warehouse. So if that gives you any idea on time frame, it's been 6 months
Oh my
of
God.
them
So your
doing this back
second
and forth.
order,
Second
you've been
order.
you've been waiting since December.
Yeah, and somehow still able to stay on page 2.
So when you run out of inventory, what is your strategy with your listing? Do you leave it or do you close it?
I actually did leave it. Uh, but I think it's a little bit different in terms of if you're looking at overall revenue for your business, because I've been in the process of building out a completely separate landing page or website that I can drive traffic to, because I have the masterclass and because I have the digital course. Because now I can go multi-channel, right? I can go in and just sell the digital product with this whole idea of a bonus as the physical product, which is how I want to position my brand, because that's really what it's about. It's about selling a positive experience to customers more than it is selling a product. So for any of you that are listening in and you're considering a product idea, I recommend asking yourself, not so much which product am I selling, but what is the experience that you are going to be giving to your customers.
That's pretty good. So you were selling a digital product related to the product you're selling?
Yes. So it's a makeup bag with LED mirror, as I said. And the course itself is how to use the tools that go inside of your bag. There's a lot of women in the world who have makeup, but perhaps they don't feel the most comfortable or confident using those tools in their arsenal. And so going in and providing something like that allows women to not only learn how to use what they have and feel more confident in their day-to-day life, because now they can go out. If you feel a little bit more empowered in yourself, maybe you are willing to go for that promotion that you have, or go and do extroverted activities that you normally wouldn't be comfortable with. And so it gives you that little bit of a boost. But then the live coaching element really helps as well, because now you have people coming into group coaching lessons that feel like they have somebody there that they can ask questions to if they feel not sure. Hey, like, is this really this color for me? Or I've been dealing with this mentally. I've had conversations in my group coaching calls where we've talked about the mentality of things. Like, there was this one person who came in, she was a college student, and she liked the whole idea of makeup and using it, and she was going to try. She had some questions about how to enhance her features, but she also very much had struggled with confidence. And so we had conversations for that hour with her about how to really step out of her own skin and actually embrace who she is as a person, which again has nothing to do really with makeup, but a lot to do with confidence, which is the experience that we hope to sell.
I love that. And that relates to your ebooks that you sell on Amazon.
Yeah, they do. But I've actually, I should go back in and put that into my newsletters and pitch that as well. Maybe once I do my full blown revamp next week, I'll send out a letter. But I already had, at the time, I was obsessed with digital products, and I created a couple of journals, which I never sold. And so those journals now are freebies as part of the digital course that I have that people get.
So I want to ask you, what is something that if you go back, and you mentioned having multiple suppliers, if you would go back knowing what happened to you and you had to wait 6 months for your second order to come in, and it's devastating, especially when a product does so well.
So well, yeah.
I don't know how you felt waiting that long.
It's hurtful.
Going back, like, how would you have handled this differently?
I mean, if I already knew what I know now, I would have ordered way more, first of all. But secondly, have a couple. It's really hard to time because, first of all, you would never know, right? I trust the supplier. I do think the supplier is nice and communicates well and typically works fast, but for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. And I'm not really sure what I could have done differently to navigate this, but perhaps having that additional website set up, the funnel page for just the course, and being able to run ads on that, perhaps I would have liked to start that from the beginning. So if you're considering going into digital courses, make sure that when you're getting that product, you're just a sitting duck for 6 months, then maybe go in and create a funnel page that if something like this happens where the inventory runs out, you will still be able to sell something and take pre-orders. I think that would probably be a good alternative.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool strategy because you're still kind of almost like you're having another launching strategy for your second order. And what was your second? How much did you order for your second inventory?
1,000, not enough, but I figured I would need to revamp with a different supplier potentially. So I kind of hedged my bets.
Oh my God, Shival, you're going to be out in a month now.
I know, I'm not learning anything, it seems. But again, I also really I'm really focusing on just doing the digital course as well as a standalone. And I think that alone will be really, really good too. I think the more complex I can make it, because obviously I'm going back in and adding bonus content, then that can also be a higher value offering.
And where are you selling that for those who are watching if they're interested?
Instagram and Facebook.
Under your name or under the brand name?
Under my name. Yeah. I haven't officially started promoting externally for the landing page, but it's nearly done. So I'm hoping to get that out soon.
Yeah, no, congratulations. That sounds
Thanks.
exciting. And before we end, because I know we're getting close to running out of time, before we end this conversation, I wanted to ask you two things. First question is, how is the selling been since Amazon replenished your inventory? Has it been picking up? Like, are you seeing the?
I'm starting to see sales again, which is really, really nice, but I think it's gonna take me at least, like, a week or 2 more to get the momentum really back to what it was, especially
Mm,
because I've been out for so long, and that is the downfall of inventory management and not being able to properly monitor it when it's first launching because you don't know how well it's gonna do, and you don't know how much product you're gonna need, and plus, it's a really cash flow intensive business. Especially at $25 a bag, I'm spending a lot of money to just get the inventory itself. And so I think it's gonna be a little bit of a ramp up, but I'm excited to see what it comes back to. I mean, I do believe it's definitely on track for a decent 6 figures this year, even in the
mm.
first year of its lifetime of its lifeline.
That's exciting, and I hope you achieve those numbers. And we would love to invite you back next year to reflect back on how you're doing
Definitely.
and everything, to see the digital course and how the product is doing. And lastly, I like to end all these episodes with, what are some advices that you can give to beginner sellers that are on their journey, who are learning every step of the way? What are some, encouragement or a positive piece of advice that you can give to people that are not struggling, but going through the challenges, going through the learning curve? What is some stuff that you can share with them?
Definitely know that it's a very normal thing to feel challenged in this industry. It is a part of the journey itself, but if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So really push through, give yourself some milestones to work towards. Sometimes the reward system works well. I would even say analyze your own abilities. What gets you most motivated? For some people, it's paying for a course. And what all that means is you're more likely to do something if there's some cash involved. So what sort of cash are you laying down? Maybe if you know that that's your reward system, then set aside like, hey, if I'm gonna set aside $10 or $15 every single week while I get this milestone done. Whatever it takes, right? Get that reward system in place and have those little wins. As you start having those little wins, try to make sure that you are keeping momentum. Because if you imagine something and you want it, the faster you get it done, the better it will be. Because the longer time it takes, the more likely you're starting to think, am I doing this right? Is it like really going to happen for me? Then you have all the doubt kick in. So just keep it moving. Know that the hurdles are normal. Keep it moving and split test. So when you're finally up and running, make sure that you're split testing things because sometimes it is that small thing that's going to make all the difference for your conversions.
Mm. And do you use A/B split testing on Amazon platform, or do you actually do like one set of listing for some time and then you change it to
I'll do
something?
offline split testing. So I'll ask, students that are in the course or my friends and family. And I just now created the A plus content, like a secondary piece basically of A plus content. So I'll be seeing if there's any differences there.
Mm. Well, thank you so much, Shivali. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your experience and your story. I mean, it's all exciting. I love what you have going, and thank you for joining us and sharing your advice. We would love to have you on the channel once more.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time as well.